All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of What is Going On Here. It is Sheepdog Smokey. Again, I'm new to this, so I'm going to make a few gaffes. I'm going to be looking at the screen. I'm not going to be looking at you all the time. Of course, some of it will be because I'm reading, others is because I'm not used to this, and I'm trying to. I believe that we need to stop the trend in cable news uh, that is everybody is an opinion piece. Everybody is an opinion journalist, from Mika to Morning Joe to Stelter to everyone. Even you get over to Tucker and Judge Janine and Sean. At least those three are open. They are not a doing a journalist style show. They are actually doing an opinion show. Whereas you get to Anderson Cooper or Acosta or the rest of them, and it's this is the news, and this is why everyone who I don't like is horrible. It's just beyond me. But this one here actually surprised me. I've actually tried not to use the Daily Caller because I know they are typically a very conservative source, but I've not seen them be inaccurate. I've not seen them jump on bandwagons and such. So this one, when it came up on my feed earlier, I wanted to talk about this because it's a wider issue. Now, I'm actually going to kind of give Graham a slight bit of leeway because there's a part of me, it's a small part in the back of my mind, that says he's doing this to make Democrats openly say what they want to do, as opposed to what they're used to, which is they just do whatever they want and then say whatever's popular and they get away with it. But let's go on and we'll kind of skim through this. Basically, just when Democrats are threatening to crazy themselves off the spectrum, you have Graham steps in with the nuttiest idea to make the GOP a gun confiscation party. He's scheduled a hearing for March 26th to consider legislation that would allow confiscation of large numbers of guns with no notice and no due process. This is what's called a red flag law. I don't like these. If you have a legitimate concern, then go to the police and say, I believe this person is going to do this on this date at this time, or they are targeting this person. Had this not, had this been the case, and had the police done their jobs in several cases, we would have stopped people who've committed horrible crimes. You look at not Pulse, but you look at the shooting where I forget the young girl's name, but she was on The Voice, um, and just phenomenal singer. But someone basically felt that she was in love with him, and when he found out she didn't know who he was, he shot her. I forget her name, and I shouldn't. I am sorry. But in that scenario, he had to have told someone what's going on. And you don't need the red flag laws to tell police, I think someone is contemplating harm. Police can't then just go knock down your door and take everything away from you, but they can watch and they can investigate. With this, you have Blumenthal Graham create a federal gun confiscation program whereby any police or Angry X can use a secret court hearing to strip a gun owner of their Second, Fourth, Fifth, and 14th Amendment rights. Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Fifth Amendment is the right to not self incriminate. Fourth Amendment, due process, unreasonable search and seizure. 14th Amendment as well, they're all important. But this basically says anyone can go to police, they're a danger. They don't have to say why, they don't have to say anything. They're a danger. And the police then are basically obligated to come take away your firearms. If you look at this, in Maryland, Ferndale, a 60-year-old man was shot to death by police serving a red flag order at 5:17 in the morning. It turned out the complainant was a non-immediate relative seeking to punish the gun owner after an argument they had. Basically amounts to your next door neighbor getting mad that you mow your yard on Saturday so they can say they're threatening me or they're harassing me, and the police come take your guns. Then the police have no obligation to keep them for any amount of time. Most likely they'll destroy them or they'll get lost. and end up in the hands of a criminal. Or, God forbid, they'll get sold by a cop to a criminal. Now, we know there are bad eggs in every industry on the everywhere on the planet. So, this 60-year-old man who had an argument with someone who's a distant relative was killed by police serving a no knock, no warrant search and seizure of firearms because he didn't want to give up his guns because he didn't know what was going on. I personally hope that this complainant was put in jail for life for basically facilitating murder. You are basically allowed to later on go to the judge and say, Judge, I've not threatened anyone. I don't harass anyone. I don't even know who said this about me. They may not even tell you who said it. So you have to prove someone you don't know who they are, you may not even really know them, is not being threatened by you. You see the insanity of this. This is wrong. And this plays into the Democrats and their common sense gun reform, where they say they want universal background checks. That's not what it would do. Their universal background checks would be registration of firearms. Imagine you're traveling on vacation and you get into an argument with someone because they bump into your car and do damage. You get home, and a day or two later, because you traded insurance information, this person has looked you up. They've never met you until they hit your car. But because you weren't magically able to fix theirs or not be hit by them, they decide to call police and say you harassed them, you threatened them. Your police officers in your town now show up at your door, no warrant, no knock, take your guns, and if you don't comply, they kill you. You then are told, well, it's this person. Who in the world is that? I don't even know anybody named that. Well, it shows here you had an altercation with them in this state. If you look at the police report, Your Honor, they hit me. They ran their car into my car. I was not at fault. They got mad because I didn't know they were going to run a stop sign. Well, that's not what they said. And then it turns into this. And all of a sudden, you are a prohibited possessor because someone you don't know told police you threatened them by not being psychic and knowing they'd run a stop sign, and therefore they hit your car. This could be someone who works with you who sees a Gun Owners Association of America or an NRA sticker, or they just see a Ruger or a Smith & Wesson logo somewhere on your car, or you wear a hat with a Smith & Wesson logo. They then say, well, they're a gun nut, they're a danger, and they report you. You're now stripped of your Second Amendment rights because you wore a hat, because you put a sticker on your car. We don't need a new law targeting law-abiding citizens. We need to enforce the laws we have. We need to stop the pussyfooting around and saying, well, it would be racist to go to Watts and try to actually stop the gangs and all this other crap. We need to stop the BS coming out of Illinois. Well, yeah, they just go to Indiana. Okay, I'm going to explain that. In Illinois, a certain firearm is deemed illegal. Someone crosses the border into Indiana where that firearm is legal. The firearms dealer runs the background check, which is already federal law. I've had to pass them myself. They find no convictions. They find a spotless record. They sell this person said firearm. They sell this person ammunition for it, maybe other accessories. This person then drives back to their home. The split second that firearm crosses the Indiana-Illinois border, they have committed a crime. They have possessed a banned weapon. This would be the same thing as saying pot is legal in Colorado. And because of that, you have people in New Mexico who go into Colorado to get it. And Arizona saying, well, that means Colorado should change their law because we don't want our people going to Colorado to have pot. No, that means you need to tell your people, don't go to Colorado, get pot, and bring it back. It's illegal in Arizona or in New Mexico or wherever. You don't tell me that I have to change my life because a criminal refuses to change theirs. It is the height of lunacy to tell someone that because someone else did something bad, you now lose rights you had. This is the same as saying that because someone drove drunk, we're banning cars. It's the insanity we're seeing in the UK, where because criminals now cannot as easily purchase firearms, they're stabbing people. And now you have people calling for knife control, there's actually calls to put GPS tracking chips in every knife sold. Do you see the insanity? It's just, I don't understand the mindset of someone who can say that, well, that person built a bomb and killed people because they're evil. And this person who brainwashed a bunch of people to think they were going to hitch a ride on the Hale Bopp comet by killing themselves was delusional and sick. But this person who used a gun, well, they were just a good person. But when they touched that gun, they became a spawn of Satan and started killing. It's a tool. I can do good or evil with my hands. A rock, a lead pipe, a 2x4, a hammer, a saw, a knife, a firearm, bow and arrow, tomahawk, crossbow. Need I go on? Any tool out there is meant for a purpose. The firearm was invented for warfare and hunting. It was adopted later more and more by civilians because they were moving into areas that had wildlife. Imagine you're in the Jamestown colony, one of the earliest settlers, and you have wolves, bears, coyotes, badgers, all these other things that you had nowhere near you in London or in wherever you were from. So that firearm you now have protects your family from wild feral animals. But a few years after you move there, the British come because they aren't happy that you don't want to pay taxes that do nothing for you. They tell you to give up your guns. That gun is now a tool to defeat tyranny. And yes, I know the next point someone's going to make. We have a military for that. Yeah, England had a military that was supposed to uh, protect and defend all British subjects, but it was turned on the American colonies because they didn't like that the American colonists thought, well, if I pay taxes, you should take care of my colony using that money. So the military was ordered because they were loyal to the king. They swore to the king. The military was ordered to subjugate them. It didn't go well for England. Now, our military swears to the Constitution, not to Congress or the president or any person. I firmly believe if the military was given an order to subjugate the populace of the U.S., they would, in droves, abandon their posts. You'd have a minority that would try to do it, but the National Guards are sworn to their states. And the National Guard would be bolstered by the people walking away from the federal military because their oath had just been nullified by people saying, your oath to the Constitution is over because we've declared the Constitution gone. This is the first step to doing an end run around that. This is the first step in disarming the population. It starts with, well, it's really just for relatives to make sure they have the ability to tell police if their relative is a danger to others. It will be expanded to anyone and everyone can. Then it will be expanded to, well, we need to monitor your social media because someone might not be worried about something you say, but it could be dangerous. Then it will be, just give up your guns. We're going to take them one way or another. And that will result in death. And from there, it gets ugly. I don't want to be here when that happens. I'm blessed right now to live in a state that will fight this tooth and nail. I know for a fact that our AG will go after this. Our AG led the fight against the ACA mandate. Unlike what you're being told that the ACA was dismantled, it wasn't. It's still there. You can still get an ACA plan. You're just no longer taxed if you don't. When the ACA passed, my health insurance costs more than tripled, and the benefits I got less than 5% of what I could do. I no longer had a copay. Prescriptions cost 3 times as much. If I needed to see a doctor and I'd already had my yearly physical, hundreds of dollars to go see my doctor if I was hurt or sick. ER visits not even covered until I'd spent $5,000 out of pocket. It was an end run to control a population. This, same thing. It is meant to control a population. Now, like I said, there is a minor part of me that believes Lindsey Graham is using this to expose Democrats' true agenda. But there's a large part of me that says this man has been in D.C. a long time, and he's used to being behind heavily armed guards, not having to worry about his own safety. And because of that, we need to stop this. But that's it for now. Make sure and leave a like and subscribe so you get all the content as I post it. And of course, make sure and leave a comment down below. Just keep it civil, and we'll see what happens here. A lively debate is a fun thing for me. I love it. Just don't turn into a toddler and start hurling ad hominems and the rest at me. Until next time, have a wonderful night.